Welcome to Fascia Masters Q&A with D&Q, episode 15. How does block therapy benefit flexibility?
Hi there, my name is Deanna Hansen. I'm a certified athletic therapist and the founder of Fluid Isometrics and Block Therapy.
And my name is Quinn Castellane. I'm the VP of Block Therapy and the lead block therapist.
Stretching is a really interesting subject. I remember when I used to go to the gym, stretching was something people just didn't want to waste their time on. People felt that it wasn't going to give them enough caloric burn or enough muscle bulking. It almost seemed like it was a waste of time for people.
Do you know what? I fully agree because I was even once there.
Well, I was once there too, until I actually read that, and I don't actually remember the specific percentage, but stretching before and after working out increased your caloric burn significantly. So I was like, because at the time, my whole goal of going to the gym was to try to get the 50 pounds off me that I couldn't seem to rid myself of.
Right.
So when I heard that, I thought, well, why am I not stretching? And it was actually really interesting because I was doing everything I could possibly do, running, Tae Bo, aerobics, to try to shed the weight. And it wasn't until I started yoga that I started really understanding the body in a completely different way. So the practice of yoga in itself is very profound and creates amazing transformation to your body. But it was actually your dad that asked me this question, because your dad was actually the one that got me into yoga years ago. And he said to me, so what's the difference between a yoga class and getting a treatment from you? And this was at least 15, 16 years ago that this question was posed. And I thought, what a great question. So, I thought about it for a moment, and, the difference is that when you are stretching, whether it's yoga or simply stretching, it's really,
Similar.
in a mechanical sense, the same thing. What you're doing is you're keeping at length the tissue that's available to lengthen. What do we do that's different with block therapy, though?
With block therapy, we release the grips and the compression and the adhesion so that we can integrate more tissue to be lengthened. So we're bringing more tissue to the surface to be lengthened rather than using the same ones over and over.
Exactly. And it's so profound because I was going to these advanced yoga classes, and every single week I would get in whatever postures we were in, and I would feel what was limiting me from going deeper in my body. And then I would go home, and this is before block therapy began. This was when I was only using my hands on my body. So I would go home, I would work those areas that were limiting me, and then inevitably the next week I would go to class and I would go way deeper. So this was my practice, and this was what really taught me how powerful this work was, because what I was observing is there was people in these advanced classes that had been in there for over a decade, and over the 2 years that I went to these classes, those people didn't progress.
Right.
If they were in their triangle pose, they kind of got to the edge and they didn't move beyond the edge. Where I was making progress week after week after week, and it wasn't long before I was able to do the side splits.
Right.
And that's one of those just, goals that people have just for the sake of being able to do it. But I was able to get there because each week I would be able to get my hands right into where I was stuck. I would create that release, and then I would go deeper so that I could find that next release.
Yeah.
So how have you found with your body, with doing block therapy, your range of motion?
The thing is, I don't necessarily stretch that much anymore. And don't get me wrong, there's still times where I definitely will stretch, but being from more of a bodybuilding background, I would definitely stretch at times before or after the gym, even when I was playing hockey or running. But when Deanna introduced me to block therapy, I didn't feel the need to stretch nearly as much because this was literally a night and day difference compared to stretching for myself. So I noticed going into the gym even that my range of motion with certain exercises was exponentially different. And I'm like, okay, this is crazy. Then I started getting bigger because I was awakening more cells to integrate. So I'm noticing this range of motion with my squatting, with flies, with literally every exercise that I would perform, and everything's different. Remember even my spine flexibility. I didn't even even know that I had flexibility in my spine because I would never go into a back bend or try to become more flexible in my spine. It was one day after I've been this was probably a couple years ago. We were at an intensive, and I just went into this back bend standing, and I was even in awe. And people were like, "How did you do that?" I'm like, "I don't know." And Deanna's like, "Well, you've been doing the block for like 5 years, dude." And I'm like, "Oh, that makes sense."
Well, I even remember that you shared with me when you went to that yoga class, you know, you were able to access these very
the
deep
yoga class,
postures.
right.
And you'd never done yoga before.
Yeah, I remember I took a complete month off of going to the gym and I went to yoga, and it was weird because initially, I wasn't like fully warmed up to it, but after literally a class or even halfway through the class, I was like, poof, getting into these positions. I'm like, I didn't know I could do this. And then I progressed so much in that 1 month. I blew myself away because it wasn't my intention to become like this crazy yogi in a way. It was just to see the benefits of it for myself. And I just flew through all of these postures incredibly well and fast and fluid, and the range of motion was just incredible.
And what we really need to understand is that everything connects to everything else. So as a therapist, I often see people with frozen shoulder, and ultimately frozen shoulder means no movement in your shoulder joint.
Yeah.
But it's not really just a function of the shoulder joint. The rib cage is the foundation for the shoulder joint. So as the rib collapses, that's going to pull that joint
Totally.
out of alignment. And if I'm stuck like this,
And then
this is as high as I can lift my shoulder. So if somebody works on my shoulder, or if I'm working on my shoulder, I'm not going to get any further along with this. If I lift up my rib cage and align everything properly, then I have that full range of motion. So understanding that we need to look at the body as a whole so that we can improve our range of motion in all of our joints and our core, that is really what this does. And you know, for anybody playing a sport, rotation is so crucial to be able to do that sport well. And when we are working through the core and the rib cage, releasing those adhesions between the ribs, it's incredible how fast your mobility improves, your flexibility, the fluidity in general of your whole body feels so much better. So if that is something that you want to improve in yourself, this is a very simple way to do it and to be able to access this work lifelong.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for watching this Fascia Masters episode. If you guys want to get started with understanding the basics and the foundations of block therapy and how you guys can start right away, visit unblockyourbody.com. You can download your 2 free gifts. One's going to be an ebook and then a 20-minute posture gift video for you. And other than that, if you have questions for us directly, use the hashtag AskBlockTherapy. Email us info@fluidisometrics.com. And of course, you can leave a comment below this video. So until next time.
Breathe and believe.